maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more. Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Welcome to the locker room, the home of football talk that matters. I am Jerry Apeon. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time, as we share the hot takes and hot debates in the exciting world of football. And joining me are the usual suspects, Ikechukwu and Mayowa, as we break down all the hot takes and everything that's happening in the football. Don't just watch football, live it with us. Catch us on the locker room and Voice of the People television at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And like I always say, if not playing in the talk, please the sport.
Voice of the People. You can hear me now. My name is Patrick Doyle, and I wish that you continue to echo the voices of the people. Big up VOP TV.
My name is Ibifa Dokubo. Please keep watching VOP TV.
Hi, my name is Kwekumali Ikenda Onyekwena, and I am with the Voice of the People TV. Now, if you're looking for the veritable channel for information, politics, robust discussions, you don't need to go far. VOP has you. VOP will always have you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patrick Diabwa, aka Ibani Chuka. I'm the Eagle King, and you are watching VOP TV. Stay with us.
It is 3 days to the official opening of the 2025 African Cup of Nations in Morocco. Exactly 5 days to the Super Eagles playing our very first game against the Tanzanians. Of course, a lot of conversation that actually been going on about the African Cup of Nations. Chief amongst them is former Ivorian international and former Chelsea superstar Solomon Kalou, tipping the Super Eagles to actually win the AFCON in Morocco. I won't doubt him because, yes, the North African soil has always been a soil where the Super Eagles has done so well when it comes to the AFCON Championship. Of course, FIFA is beaming the satellite down there, breathing hard in the heart of the DR Congo, considering the ineligible players that they actually fielded against Nigeria and Cameroon in the World Cup playoff. And on that note, I say welcome to the locker room on Voice of the People TV. I am Ikechukwu Agwago. Today promises to be another very exciting episode of the show. It is a packed show, and trust me, we've got the guys in the building that will be breaking down all of the stories. But before I bring the guys to you, definitely let me tell you one quick thing you have to do to be part of the family. If you're not yet part of the family, all you need to do is to like, share, and of course, subscribe on the YouTube platform. And do not forget to hit that notification bell for us to be a family. On that note, I welcome the gladiators. Afis, it's good evening. Welcome to Locker Room.
Yes, good evening, Ikechukwu. And now it's good to be back on Locker Room. And I also want to say good evening to Mayowa that is also coming in. And good evening to the viewers as well. You mentioned something just before, we started on the show. Oh, let me say in your intro, where you talked about Nigeria and them, the Super Eagles of Nigeria performing, at this AFCON that is starting on Sunday, December 21st in Morocco. For me, I think it's going to be a more difficult task because just like the World Cup, it's also like an extended format. We're having 6 groups, and of course, it's not a straight round of 16 or a quarterfinal. There will be, third place teams and all of that. And I think on paper, even though we know that people are saying that football is not played on paper, but on paper, it looks like a easy group for Nigeria. I mean, I had someone here also saying Nigeria belongs to the easiest group. I mean, looking at the likes of Tunisia, Tanzania, and also Uganda. But we know that maybe the toughest not to crack will be Tunisia. But I'll take us back to when we saw that duel for the World Cup. You remember when the World Cup qualifiers, when we saw the likes of South Africa, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, we knew how that one turned out. When we actually saw that one, we were like, South Africa will be the only issue, but we became our own issues, and hopefully it's not going to be the same. And the boys are all in camp now. They're ready to go. They've left Cairo. They are now in Morocco. They're in Fez, and let's see how they are ready to go and for this AFCON. Even though the game against Egypt looks like nothing to write them about, but then the tournament, when it starts proper, hopefully the Super Eagles will make us proud.
Hopefully the Super Eagles will make us proud. And of course, Maiwa joins virtually. Maiwa, I know you slept very well like a baby last night. Manchester City actually won, so it was a very good night rest for you. And yes, the Super Eagles landed safely in Fez. It's a very good day to talk football here on Locker Room. Welcome and good evening.
Well, it's always amazing to be here. Well, Man City won yesterday, and it was a lot of banter. I was hoping Man City would lose, so I can, banter my wife. But I mean, our team won. But in any case, congratulations to Man City. But they just stopped starting 6 days to wait. Solomon Kalou tipping us, and you said North Africa has been a very good ground for us. We've only won 1 out of 3. We've only won 1 out of the 3 Nations Cup we've won. So probably will Morocco be another hunting ground for us this season? Well, when the competition starts, probably maybe that will happen. But a whole lot of chaos in our camp, coaches not being paid, players, not being made to them. We have all those to contend with. Would that hinder us from winning the Nations Cup? Well, you find out, in the next couple of days when the Nations Cup starts. It's always amazing to be here. Ikechukwu, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Maiwa. It's so good to have you join us on this particular occasion of the Locker Room. And of course, the big news in the world of football is football governing body FIFA will now proceed with an examination of the Nigeria's petition concerning eligibility of several players in the DR Congo squad, which recently defeated the Super Eagles to secure a spot in the Intercontinental Playoff. This decision comes after a penalty shootout concluded in favor of DR Congo during the playoff final in Morocco, but now serious implication could follow if they are found guilty of eligibility violence. Nigeria raised concerns about certain players having dual citizenship, which is prohibited under DR Congo's constitution unless they renounce their other nationality. Furthermore, there are allegations involving documentations or document forgery by one player to expedite the nationality switch, raising additional legal questions. In response, DR Congo has urged FIFA to dismiss Nigeria's petition, claiming the players are eligible based on sporting grounds despite local laws against dual citizenship. FIFA has rejected the assertion and plans to investigate the claims, with a verdict anticipated before the Intercontinental Playoff qualifiers in Morocco, where 2 valuable tickets are at stake. Yeah, that's the story, and that's FIFA coming hard on DR Congo. They've rejected, their own response to the Super Eagles petition, saying we have to investigate. I mean, is this a good news for football? Let's start from there.
I think listening to it and trying to interpret it in a layman's language, you can't tell if what football governing body what to do. I mean, you can't just tell them to dismiss, the allegation. Even though maybe they might have their own reasons for saying that, but I mean, at the end of the day, you still let FIFA to do their job.
But when you take a case to a jury, you can your opponents can actually say this case actually lacked merit, dismiss it, and they will definitely dismiss it.
Yes, I understand, but this is like I would put it now. Nigeria is becoming a synonymous name to FIFA. You remember what happened with South Africa? It dragged on for a long time. Now that Nigeria is here again, and they are pushing hard. And there's a funny thing that we said just before we came on here, where we said that Nigeria, they're not necessarily the ones that actually brought out the whole situation, but it just finds a way to favor the Nigerians. And right now, it is going to be favor Nigeria. And yes, you have discussed already before now the whole issue. DR Congo coming out to say that these players are eligible. I mean, chief of them is Aroma Bissaka. But my own is this, right? Even if they now found out that these players were eventually ineligible, I don't think it's going to be straight Super Eagles going to the Intercontinental.
Hold your horses. I'm going to definitely come back to you. Yeah. Maiwa, one of the claims that the DR Congo, one of the offense that Super Eagles, that the Nigerian Football Federation alleged that the DR Congo actually committed is the fact that they actually committed, what is known as, a fraud by actually, expediting a player's nationality, which is actually not supposed to be so. In this case, to actually be able to be part of it, and all of this, if it comes out that it is actually true. I mean, bearing the fact that they've actually also come out to say, hey, this is actually on sporting grounds and, our constitution actually allows it. Where do you think FIFA might be swinging at the end of the day, looking at the way these guys are actually coming at each other from, for talking about the NFF and, of course, the DR Congo governing body as regards, who is going to actually get the biggest part of, who is going to actually get the carrot in this case when it comes to FIFA actually, giving its verdict?
Well, the thing is, when this issue first came up, when we're talking about it, I made a comparison with Qatar. In Qatar, if you have exceptional talent, the citizenship rules does not apply to you. Normally, you're supposed to spend about 25 years before, becoming a Qatari citizen. And, you highlighted officials in Congo said that there's a particular exception in their constitution. If that exception is true and it's stated in their constitution, then I think Nigeria does not have the case. Now, the second issue will now be the fast tracking of a player to come and play without following the proper process.
According to what they say, Maiwa, please hold on. They said DR Congo actually forged. They forged, documents of one of their players to actually expedite his nationality switch. And I don't know if that turns out to be true. Then, of course, you also now mentioned something about, maybe FIFA will be looking at the ground that, okay, on sporting ground, maybe this can actually be forgiven. But if it turns out that the case of forgery is also part of it, do you think that FIFA will still look at it with the same lens?
Definitely. I mean, you have present yourself falsely. And if you present yourself falsely, that means the player is ineligible since the documents were forged. And if that's the case, then I've always said it, if you commit a crime, you should face the consequences. In as much as, I do not appreciate the fact that, Nigeria wants to use the back door to go to the World Cup or even get to the playoff and just that, because if we are to speak on facts, we do not deserve to be at the World Cup. That's just the fact. However, we have a case in our hand now, and I've said it consistently. If you commit a crime, the laws are there, the rules are there. You are supposed to follow the guidelines and the rules to the letter. If you have committed any infraction and you are found wanting, then you should face the consequence. So if the case of forgery, is found to be true, then definitely, I guess Nigeria will be heading to the playoff. But we have to wait for FIFA. I'm hoping they do this quickly because we have about another 90-95 days before the playoff in the US. I think they have to move quickly for us to be able to know if you are going to make it to the playoff or not.
But Maiwa, I want to ask a quick question. Sorry, Kechuku. Maiwa, does dual citizenship, does it equate to player eligibility? Because that seems to be the question here. And I know Mohamed Sanusi came out to say that Ivory Coast law, DR Congo law does not support dual citizenship. But this is not the first time we are seeing players with dual citizenship play for the DR Congo. I also saw that the last AFCON, there are some players that came out to play.
Okay, my answer.
Yeah, so the thing is this. So this is what FIFA will look at. Before you make a switch, the law of that particular land, they look at that law before they allow you make the switch. In the DR Congo, law, it is stated that if you want to be part of DR Congo, if you want to, become a DR Congo citizen or whatever it is, then you have to renounce your citizenship to another country and pledge full allegiance. If that is the case, then they are ineligible based on the fact that of their own rule themselves, because whatever clearance you are doing has to align with your own country rules. For example, if I'll give a typical example. If you are from Saudi Arabia and your mother is from Saudi Arabia and maybe your father is from another country, for the fact that a Saudi Arabian woman gave birth to you does not give you an automatic citizenship. Whereas in another country, they just need one of your parents to be a citizen of that country, then you are eligible for citizenship. So the rules are different. So in this case, the laws of the land of DR Congo says if you have a dual, a dual citizenship. You have to renounce one before saying you are a DR Congo person. So they have to follow that together. However, like the case of Qatar that I stated, if there is an exception in their constitution, then that means those players are eligible.
Would this be like egg on our faces if this thing eventually goes in favor of the DR Congo and they continue to the intercontinental playoff?
Well, I mean, we cannot actually decide what FIFA says, but in the end, if it turns out that FIFA actually decide that DR Congo hasn't erred according to FIFA law, then of course they have every right to actually proceed to the World Cup. It's all about making sure. See, everything about the law, right? As far as I'm concerned, it's not just about you getting it right or getting it wrong. It's about creating precedent so that nations that will come after will definitely know that what, this is not the route to actually follow. This is exactly how you actually go about it. So that's for me. But then let's create a hypothetical situation.
Yeah,
FIFA has actually decided to cut DR Congo loose.
Yeah.
That okay, you guys are actually guilty. You're not going to the World Cup.
Yeah.
What should be the right step for FIFA? Should Nigeria be handed the ticket? Or should Cameroon, who actually started this particular protest, be handed the ticket? Or should there be, a matchup between Nigeria and Cameroon? Or some persons have actually said, you know what, by the virtue of a feature, FIFA is supposed to just look at it that Cameroon made it to the final and lose to Nigeria. Tell us what exactly, what position from your own position, what decision FIFA would take. You will look at this and you say, this is justice.
All right, Ikechukwu, I know we've always been, clamoring for fairness in every decision made, right? And I'll take us back to the Tebo Mokoena situation. It was Lesotho that cried out for that verdict. And at the end of the day,
your people set agenda.
No, the 3 points actually favored both all Nigeria, Benin Republic, and Lesotho. South Africa dropped down, right? In this situation, South Africa, Cameroon, at the first team to actually launch that complaint, Nigeria voiced it all up, right? If those players actually took part in that game against Cameroon, then for me, I think it should be a face-off if it eventually goes in the favor of Cameroon and Nigeria at this point, because those players actually also played against the Super Eagles of Nigeria, ultimately beating Nigeria to that ticket, right? But right now, Cameroon can come out and say, if those players hadn't played, we would have won. You know what I'm trying to say, right? So those players took part in that game. So for me, what should benefit Nigeria should also benefit Cameroon. If they can, and just like Maiwa said, they don't have time. They have to do that one between now and maybe January, February, because the intercontinental playoff has already been set for March.
Let me ask you.
That should be Nigeria.
Let me ask you. Nigeria got to the final, lost to DR Congo. Right? Nigeria might be claiming for forfeiture. We got to the final. If these guys hadn't cheated, we would have actually gotten the ticket. Cameroon, on the other hand, would have been saying, you know what? I mean, we would have actually gotten to the final and, of course, defeated Nigeria. Since the people who defeated Nigeria would have also gotten the ticket. Yeah. So now for you're saying it's a matchup. It should be a matchup.
Because one of the players that is actually being accused here, Arawa Bisaka, gave Cameroon the hell of a night. Also gave Nigeria a hell of a night. So it should be, for me, to end all of this, I think it should be a Cameroon versus Nigeria playoff. Because both players, all these players were involved in both games. So for me, I think it's going to be a Cameroon-Nigeria. Whatever benefits Cameroon should benefit Nigeria and vice versa as well.
For our face, it's saying that what is good for the goose should also be for the gander. And Maiwa, I ask you now. Now, should it be a Cameroon ticket or a Super Eagles ticket, or should they go into a battle of supremacy? Who should get the ticket?
I think if we want to be fair, we should look at the group or the World Cup group. I mean, DR Congo played with all these ineligible players throughout the World Cup group. It would be unfair to cut out those guys because, I mean, they took away the opportunity. The team that came third in that particular group, we need to look at them too.
Yes.
I mean, we need to look at them because, I mean, they were part of the process, and Congo DR fielded ineligible players. If they are found guilty, fielded. So if we want to be very fair, it's going to be the third team that finished behind DR Congo versus maybe a Cameroon. Then whichever wins plays Nigeria again. I think that would be the fair thing to do. However, because of time constraints, I think what will happen is this, and this is nobody should quote me, but I'm thinking this is what will happen. DR Congo forfeits that game. Nigeria automatically qualifies because there will be no time, to play any of these games because, I mean, majority of these players, They are tied to their club.
There will be time. There will be time. Because why do you want to favor the people that play the final? What happened to the semi-finals? Because Cameroon will tell you they considered the 9 minutes goal. So they were actually dragging, Congo to maybe the extra time of penalties too.
If we are looking at that, then we have to look at the group. We have to look at the group. If the moment we do that, we have to look at the group. So that means the team that finished behind Cameroon, right, behind
Sudan, yes.
Group,
Sudan.
Yeah, Sudan will have to play Cameroon for playoff.
Yeah.
Any of them that wins now comes and play Nigeria. The question is do we have a 2 weeks period for that? Do we have a 1 week period for that? That's the big question.
If you have a 1 week period that you want to bring out for Cameroon and Nigeria, we can have a 2 week period, but because we have to be fair. No, we preach fairness, right? We preach fairness, and if we want to be fair and we want to go down that Lesotho and Mokoena route, everybody should be involved.
But in this case, right, in the absence of because I mean, what I hear you guys debate about mostly is time.
Yeah.
Do you think FIFA should just rather fine DR Congo and then allow them go?
For me, according to Mr. Mayowa, that is trying to advocate time. You can't call it injustice yet, Mayowa, because that's still going into the investigation.
No. The rules are very clear. They broke the. I mean, see.
Allegedly.
Very clear.
Allegedly,
Mayowa. Let's put allegedly so I don't sue us. Allegedly.
Yeah.
If they are found wanting allegedly, right?
No, Mayowa, we're actually creating an hypothetical situation. So, I mean, everything we are saying is still very much in the realm of speculation. So,
I mean, what I'm saying is this. FIFA rules are very clear. If you feed an ineligible player, you forfeit that point. You forfeit that game. So the question now is this. How far back do they want to go with the forfeiture? That's where the question is. Because these players that we are talking about, allegedly, they featured in all the qualifying rounds. So how far back do FIFA want to go? That's the big question.
Sorry, Kechuka. I'm sorry. For me, I'll just say that, remember the Eritrea situation, right? It did not affect anybody. They did not play. We could have just gone on with those 5 teams, but they said everybody's point should be removed, and they created time for it. So I don't know what's wrong with CAF. That's just my own situation. I don't know what is wrong with CAF. This shouldn't be happening all the time.
Well, this is actually not a CAF issue. If it were the qualifying rounds, we will say, okay, CAF is very much involved. At this level, the playoff was actually all FIFA's. Right, it's actually already a FIFA organized tournament. So,
but it's a CAF playoff.
No, well, you want to say
it's an African playoff.
Yes, but it's a FIFA organized tournament at that point.
Yeah,
right. At that point, it's a FIFA organized tournament. So,
but
it's more.
The qualifier not also a FIFA organized tournament. They are qualifying for the FIFA World Cup.
So at that point, when they were still playing for the group stage, right, it's still very much in CAF's jurisdiction. But when they got to that playoff level, that those teams have been selected, is very much under FIFA's purview. But every situation we see in the world of football, every single situation is not actually new. Mayowa, I remember Euro 92. What's his name? Denmark did not actually qualify, automatic to that particular championship.
Yeah.
In fact, they actually got knocked out in the group stage, for qualifiers. Yeah. Yugoslavia actually took, that particular ticket. Yeah. The war broke out and Yugoslavia was banned. And then Denmark came back, as a team into that particular championship. They went on the way to actually win the championship, 1-0 against Germany in the final. So when it comes to forfeiture, the last game is always the game that FIFA takes precedence of. And I think in this case, it's sadly just going to be Nigeria getting the ticket.
That would be injustice, in my opinion.
Why is that going to be?
No, it is going to spark a lot of reactions. The likes of Sudan, Togo, South Sudan, they will come and start to
Why didn't they make it to the final?
So how about Cameroon?
Why didn't they make it to the final?
Because of those players.
That's the thing.
Exactly. So if those players were there and those players chiefly did not let them get to the playoffs.
Well, Cameroon can actually go to court and go to CAS and make their own case. Maybe that would end them. Mayowa, is that going to be injustice if Nigeria gets a ticket based off forfeiture?
Like this?
Well, I think if you want to be fair, to be injustice, we have to go back to the groups. And that's just the honest truth. Because these players, they contributed to the overall success of DR Congo getting out of the group. And they played against all these countries. So for me, I think the fair point will be the team that finished behind DR Congo in their group plays Cameroon. The winner between Cameroon and maybe Sudan place Nigeria. That would be the fair thing. But the big question is there is no time. There is no time, and that's just the honest truth. There is no time. I think what will happen is Nigeria probably gets the ticket.
Hopefully, let's get to see what FIFA decides at the end of the day. If it's going to be Nigeria, Cameroon get the ticket, or Cameroon get the ticket, or the Super Eagles, go solo to the World Cup come, June in North America. But then, of course, let's move straight to another story. Of course, this one is about the tournament that's going to be starting 3 days from today. Talking about the Morocco 2025 African Cup of Nations. And one man, yes, former, Chelsea legend and, of course, former Ivorian legend. Of course, the Nations Cup winner himself, Solomon Kalou, who has actually come forward to announce his support for the Super Eagles of Nigeria as favourite to clinch the title in 2025 in the African Cup of Nations in Morocco. Nigeria narrowly missed securing their 4th title in last edition, losing 2-1 to the host Cote d'Ivoire, of course, his own home country. And now Kalou is emphasizing that Nigeria's potential to succeed this year, is because of the depth in the squad and the quality that the Super Eagles is actually going to that particular championship. And of course, he's talked about Victor Osimhen leading the line. They have, and of course, he said, and I quote, they have one of the most feared strikers in the world of football at the moment. And of course, he praised the teams. And he also talked about Ademola Lookman, Samuel Chukwueze, alongside other top players, Alex Iwobi, Moses Simon, Calvin Bassey. He talked a lot, he hit a lot of praise on the Super Eagles. And I don't know if you share his sentiments as regards this one, if the Super Eagles is actually the favorite to actually land this big championship come 3 days time when it's going to be starting in Morocco.
Yeah, I think I'll just give credit to Solomon Kalou. I mean, he has been involved in battles also with Nigeria.
But before you go on, I want you to answer this alongside as you continue to tell us if he's actually on the right course when he said the Super Eagles is going to clinch it. The Cote d'Ivoire team that we saw defeat the Super Eagles, right? How much of a progress in terms of becoming a better team have they moved 1 year from what we saw in last championship? And of course marry it with what Solomon Kalou has said and why it's not actually talking about this team being the favorite to pick the championship.
I think funny enough, something happened within the Cote d'Ivoire camp. I mean, there's a lot of politics being played. Nicolas Pepe came out to make a statement about Cristiano Ronaldo, saying he has played over 200 penalties and he's a penalty merchant and all of that. That Messi is the best and all of that. The Ronaldo Messi thing, waiting on that. And for that reason, publicly they came out to drop him. And he's one of Cote d'Ivoire's best players right now in club football, playing really well for Villarreal right there in Spain. Right, Simon Adingra as well. Fine, maybe he has not had the best performance with Sunderland. He was the best young player, at AFCON, at the last AFCON. We saw what he did to Olalua Aina, our own right back. And then he was also dropped for a certain Wilfred Zaha. So I think there's this politics being played, and Solomon Kalou knows that, okay, fine. Of course, he is tipping his team. But he knows that there's this battle with the Super Eagles. He knew how tight that final was. And also, he himself as a player then, remember 2006 when the Drogba scored that goal that Nigeria are still contesting it today, saying it was offside and it would have counted if there was VAR. So for me, I think it's okay for Solomon Kalou to give the credit. But as for Cote d'Ivoire, they still don't have bad players. They still have the bulk of those players that took them to the AFCON, the last AFCON that they won and they're defending champions, and they still have the coach, Emas Faye. So for me, I think automatically he knows that he's tipping, Ivory Coast to go on and do it. But he has to pick up somebody that he knows that these are 3-time champion. That's talking about Super Eagles in Nigeria, 1980, 94, and 2013. He knows that if there's any team...
We've lost a couple of finals.
As well, so including the last AFCON. So he feels that with this depth of the squad, that Nigeria can go one better. But we in Nigeria, we are actually the ones debating the 28-man squad, saying that there are some names that shouldn't have made it and there are some names that should have.
Solomon Kalou actually talked about the Group C where the Super Eagles will play their game, their first game, particularly against the Taifa Stars of Tanzania. And of course, you recall that group, and the other teams like the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia and the Cranes of Uganda will also be, fighting for the ticket to actually qualify for the next round in that particular group against Super Eagles. Our first game comes on Tuesday, December 23rd, and he was talking about a lot of players, and I'm wondering, looking at the Ivorian side, they topped their group in the qualifying round to the World Cup. They've shown that they are a strong team. They developed. How much of a progress has the Super Eagles made from the last AFCON that we got to the finals to this particular AFCON now? And then How on earth is Solomon Kalou, picking the Super Eagles? Is his call that the Super Eagles will make the championship, will be the winner of this particular championship, a genuine one and a fact based on the quality of player that we have? Or is he just making a mockery, or will you want to call it a farce as regards the current situation of the Super Eagles? Tell us exactly what you see from what he actually said.
Well, I mean, he's just playing mind games. Definitely, we'll be hoping that his team secretly wins. From in the last 1 year, we've turned Osimhen FC. If Osimhen does not play, we do not score. In the last 1 year, we've hired how many coaches? 4 coaches. In the last 1 year, we couldn't even qualify for the World Cup. We are talking about using the backdoor method to qualify. In the last 1 year, we've seen players protest. We've seen the captain of Super Eagles forced out because, he spoke out against injustice. In the last 1 year, we've seen our NFF, they've treated our players. In the last 1 year, we've seen that the current coach we have, they are currently owing him about 2 months' salary, not paid. And up to now, he has not been paid. These are the things we are battling with. Do we have enough individual to find out or even to win it? Yes, we do. But a whole lot of people that are supposed to make the team tick are not there. Even the selection itself. We were talking about the selection which other day. Some of the names on that list got there because of federal character. Some of the names on that list got there because of I know somebody. How do you justify dropping an Okoye for Uzo and Nwabali for Amasoge? How do you justify it? The list goes on. So I mean, if you look at it with what we are battling with, let's be honest with ourselves. Yes, we have enough quality to muscle some things and get past some things, but I don't think we have the quality with what is going on right now to win that particular Nations Cup. God forbid the snake gets injured. We do not have another goal scorer for us in that particular team.
So Maiwa, you're telling me now that the Super Eagles team, from where you stand, is actually compared to what we saw in 2023, is a team that is less in terms of quality and cohesion. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we are worse off. We are worse off. Even the defensive line, Benjamin Fredericks is not there. We are scratching our head. And that's just the honest truth. We have a goalkeeper that is low on confidence, and that's the goalkeeper we decided to take to the tournament. We have an FA that doesn't care about the well-being of the coach. A coach that is supposed to tinker the team to victory. You have not paid the coach, and you expect him to give you 100% performance. Some of the players have not been paid. They are even scared to talk because of what you did to Chustekong. Because Chustekong was forced out. So how do we expect our boys to perform very well? That's just the honest truth. If you look at those indices, definitely they are working against us, and that might work against us in that particular tournament.
Talking about working against us in that particular tournament, our former Super Eagles, star, talking about Garba Lawal, also came out, jumped on it, and he was talking about, the championship, talking about the Nations Cup, and he said the Super Eagles must do everything possible to actually win a first game in this particular championship because it's going to really decide, the fate of the team going forward. If the team wants to actually win this championship, the first game is as important as any other game in this championship. But for me, right, I've come to look at championship all over the world. In the last couple of years, I've seen, teams, go all the way to actually get to the finals, even without winning their first game. Case in point, UEFA Champions League last season, Paris Saint-Germain got to the finals. In fact, they smoked every other team when they got to the knockout round, but they struggled in the group phase of the Champions League. Yeah. They struggled literally. Right. We look at the Super Eagles 2013 championship winning side. Yeah. Our first game against Zambia was a draw. It was a hard-fought draw. We struggled to actually, got a point in that particular
Spain
one.
In 2010.
Spain in 2010 as well. Argentina in last World Cup.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of an importance is the first game, but help me understand Garba Lawal's statement. Is it that if you don't win the first game, it's going to spell doom for you? Or is Garba Lawal speaking out of, a man who is just emotional about the Super Eagles and he just wants the Super Eagles to actually start on the very right foot?
Yeah, every game is important, Ikechukwu, and I think I will actually echo and double down on what Garba Lawal has said, because looking at this AFCON, like I said, there are a lot of teams and there's no small team we should, take away that fact from our heads now that there's any small team that wants to negotiate. So the first game might be very, very important. Tanzania, might shock the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and they might find it hard to, incorporate from that one. So for me, I think, yes, every game is important, like I said, but the first one also is very, very important. Get your 3 points, any game that comes by. So just to simply avoid what we usually do when it comes to Nigerian football, bringing our calculators at the end of the day. So for me, I think get to your first game at the AFCON, win that game. Tunisia, for me, I think will be our toughest opponents because this is the team that has qualified for the World Cup. They went through that qualifying phase, considered 0 goals and scored 22. This is a team that we know that they can be very, very good. I think the likes of Hannibal Mejbri, former Manchester United player, is there. They have good players, talking about the Tunisians. So, of course, you need to get that's your first win against Tanzania. That will be on December 23rd. Uganda as well also get a win. Then maybe also, play against the Tunisians, get a draw or something. Just for me, just to avoid all this breaking out of calculators, I think I will corroborate what Gabalawala said. Every game is important for me, but that first game is very, very important, especially in African football. You should go ahead to get your first 3 points and move on from there.
Mayawa, look at the Super Eagles in that particular group, playing our first game. No disrespect to the Taifa Stars of Tanzania, but should it be a walk in the park for the Super Eagles, looking at the quality of talent and the exposure our players have, at this point going to this particular championship? And Gary Balawa is saying that, the talent in the squad should be enough to actually deliver that 3 points and, secure a win to help bolster the team's performance going forward in this particular championship. Tell us, Mayawa, how important is the very first game of every championship? If you want to win it, how important is you winning that particular very first game of a tournament?
It's very, very important. If you don't win your first game, it takes a whole lot away from you. But we've seen teams, do it before. I will take you back to Ojas 90. Westerhoff team were beaten mercilessly by Robert Manja in the first game 5-1. We ended up getting to the finals and we ended up losing to Algeria again in that particular final. Yes, it's doable even if you lose your first game. However, with the quality of team we have right now, I think it's better we quickly get the point before we play one of the toughest teams. And, the draft was so kind to us that we are playing Tunisia as our last game. So it is very, it's very important that we pick up the important points before we get to that particular game against Tunisia. We saw our game, and not to draw comparison between Egypt and Tunisia, we saw our game against Egypt. Yes, a whole lot of new faces were there, but we struggled in that particular game. So with the quality we have, I think we should be able to dispatch the likes of Tanzania and the rest of them before we play, a fully functioning Tunisian side. So I think Gabalawa is very correct. For us not to start, getting out our calculators and, scratching our head or trying to qualify, I think it is very imperative that we win our first 2 games before we face, a Tunisian side. Because for me personally, I think our team against a strong opposition, I don't think we can stand the test of a strong opposition at the moment because of the lack of cohesion we have at the moment. So it's better we get those, those crucial points before we get to play Tunisia.
Well, if there's anything I've come to know about the Super Eagles, in the last couple of years, is that when it comes to top teams, the Super Eagles will always rise to the occasion. But when it comes to teams that are, not really known, with due respect to all of them, the Super Eagles will always struggle. And it reminds me of 2002 World Cup, Nigeria in the same group with Sweden, Argentina and England. A lot of persons were actually tipping Argentina and England to make it through to that particular next stage. But Argentina actually got knocked out alongside Nigeria,
even after winning the first game.
Absolutely. So it says a lot about this sort of things, and I'm expecting that the Super Eagles will understand that. I just hope that our first game doesn't end up becoming our most difficult game, because teams like this can really, really be very difficult for Super Eagles to break down. But then talking about, teams, getting one over you and struggling to actually, find your form. One man is actually really struggling to actually put his team together. Talking about Real Madrid, coach, and the man who in question I'm talking about is Xabi Alonso. As former Real Madrid striker, Tote believes manager Xabi Alonso is under pressure to maintain his position at the club. Speaking with Radio Marca, Tote actually indicated that decision to dismiss Alonso has likely been taken. And of course, Alonso is running out of time, as there seems to be lack of confidence in him. Tote also commented that battling for his job is every single day, which must take his role, of course, which must make his role incredibly difficult. And Tote also noted the importance of strong leadership at a giant club like Real Madrid, highlighting the recent disappointment regarding Vinicius Jr. And of course, there should have been a punishment to send a message to the team. And he was also talking about, how Alonso seemed to be actually holding out, of course, for top players, and pointing out that with top players holding the team, Alonso has actually lost, his pace and really shown that he doesn't have what it takes to actually control his team as a manager. But now, looking at Xabi Alonso's recent performance, of course, what he's done so far for Real Madrid, he's not done so bad. They are obviously in the top 5 in the Champions League this season when it comes to the league format. And they are, top 4, right? And they're also in the second team on the log when it comes to the La Liga. So, coaching Real Madrid, right? And what Tote, former Real Madrid striker, has come out to say. Do you really think, looking at Xabi Alonso's performance so far this season, his job is truly under scrutiny?
Well, I think I'll take it back to the Club World Cup. I mean, from that first game up against Al Hilal, there were already signs that were showing that Madrid, they are not really going towards that direction. And also, for me, I think Xabi Alonso, I mean, he did great for himself in Germany, going through that invisible season. I think that he has built that profile for himself and he has set that standard for himself. And he felt like Real Madrid is his next step, to take. But there's something about Real Madrid. We know that primarily, whenever a new coach comes, into the Real Madrid setting, into the Real Madrid board, first thing you need to do is to hold out that hierarchy of Barcelona. You need to cut off what Barcelona is doing. You need to win the La Liga minimum. If you can't win the La Liga, win the Champions League. They are a big club with big standards. That is what they have set. You win the La Liga or you win the UEFA Champions League. And the way they started this season, we could see it from their gameplay, from their team play. Last season, we saw that strength in the attack. Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham just behind Rodrigo, Kylian Mbappe, and Vinicius Junior. Fine, they did not get to win either the La Liga or the Champions League, and we saw what happened. Don Carlo Ancelotti is not there anymore. It's now Xabi Alonso. You have that ahead of you. So if you look at Real Madrid's gameplay, of course he has the stars. And also, I think this has also been fueled by that decision to drop Rodrigo Goes, of which in his last 2 games, we have seen the importance of Goes. Even though they lost against Manchester City, in the Champions League, Rodrigo was the one who scored the goal after getting his first start in God knows how long. And also, coming off the bench in the recent La Liga win, he also got the winning goal. So for me, I think maybe a little bit of stubbornness from Xabi Alonso and the fact that the tactics is not really going on fine. They look to be Kylian Mbappe FC at this point. Vinicius Junior has dropped in goals and assists. It is all about Kylian Mbappe. And in the game that he missed, chiefly that game against Manchester City, we could see that attack wasn't really spelling out anything. And Jude Bellingham as well, he's also facing his own right now. He's battling form. There are even talks that he might not even make England squad for the World Cup. So I think internally with Real Madrid and Xabi Alonso, it is not really going right. And of course, internally as well, I think they're already discussing his future with the likes of Zinedine Zidane, being touted to return. And for me, not really bad, but when it comes to the standards of Real Madrid, less is not taken. You have to go for more and more.
Our former Real Madrid player, Tote, actually accused the manager of not being able to actually address, player issue. He's not able to actually hold his dressing room. And one of the things he actually said that the manager must assert his authority effectively. I mean, looking at Xabi Alonso in the last couple of months has been at the helm of Real Madrid. Tell me for real, from what you've seen, does it look like, a little fish in a very big ocean, in that particular dugout of the Santiago Bernabeu, the most decorated football club side in the world? Is the job bigger than Xabi Alonso from what you can see?
Well, I don't think the job is bigger than him, but I don't think the Real Madrid board has the patience to allow him to thrive. If you look at the Real Madrid side, and it's beginning to play out, on the field. Vinicius Junior acting out. The report is there are various camps in the Real Madrid side. There is a Vinicius Junior camp that thought everything would be around him, and it's not around him. There is a Kylian Mbappe who was brought in to be the face of the club, and you cannot bench the face of the club. Everything has to revolve around him.
Especially when the face is delivering, Maiwa.
Yeah, obviously. And so if you look at it, Xabi Alonso does not, the way he plays, I don't think it really suits, a Kylian Mbappe, but he doesn't have a choice. There's an Hendrick who is practically angry and wants to leave in January. There's a Jude Bellingham who has been complaining. So there is a lot of camp in that dressing room. And, this is what Xabi Alonso has inherited. If you were to give Xabi Alonso the chance, he will probably clear out some of these guys to bring in people that will listen to him. Most of these players, they have ego. Xabi Alonso, with all due respect to him, the highest achievement he has achieved so far is getting to the Europa League final and losing. And that's just the honest truth.
Winning the Bundesliga unbeaten is something. I mean,
you cannot
ending that authority of Bayern Munich.
You cannot compare the Bundesliga to the La Liga. That's just the honest truth. And I'm not taking anything away from what he has done. I mean, he built a reputation. That was why he was hired. But if you look at Alonso and the players you have at that particular club, remove an Mbappe that has not won the Champions League. All majority of the players there, they've won the Champions League.
So Maiwa, that takes me back to the question I asked.
They don't respect him.
So Maiwa, that takes me back to the question I asked. Are you now agree with me that the club may be perhaps bigger than Xabi Alonso?
No, I don't think the club is bigger, but the player. See, the thing is this: he inherited those players. They are not his players.
So the players are bigger than him.
The players have ego problem. That is the thing.
He cannot manage them, which means they are bigger than him.
They're bigger than him because Don Carlo actually, he got to manage them and he won the Champions League.
Because Don Carlo has won the Champions League before he joined as a manager, and he's won it on multiple occasions before this crop of Vinicius and co actually came on board. So it was easy for Don Carlo to actually manage their ego. But for Xabi Alonso, I mean, the only thing he's done is in Bundesliga, with due respect, but of course you cannot compare, whatever it is Bayern Munich has done there to what Real Madrid has also done, in La Liga and in Europe, particularly. So if you look at the crop of players when it comes to balance, I mean, don't you think that these players are actually really bigger than him if we want to be very fair with ourselves?
If you want to be fair, see, if the board will give Alonso a chance, and I'm not holding brief for him,
okay,
but if they will give him a chance, if they will give him an opportunity, let him play out this season and let him start another season afresh, the result will be different. Now, he is thrown into a situation where he has to appeal to the ego of these players. Because if he doesn't do that, they will make sure he's fired. And that's just the honest truth. So his back is at the wall. It's against the wall. So he has to just manage with what he has. But if the season ends, he already know who and who he will need to tell the board to let go. Then bring in his people to do the job. Does he have the quality to do it? Yes. The players at the moment, they are not his players, and they are giving him a headache, and he cannot do without them because these are the players that won the Champions League and won a lot of things, and the board will not allow him to disband them at the moment. So he just have to make do with what he has at the moment, and that's where the problem is.
So let's move away from that particular story. Still talk about managers and, of course, rumors of sack or managers, rumors of being replaced. And let's move straight to England. And this one concerns Pep Guardiola. Yes, I don't know if Maiwa is going to actually get this. I see this as a good news because if it happens the way we're actually looking at it, maybe you might not be able to.
He said something about Maiwa being happy.
Yes.
Is something something fishy? Manchester United did not play. It was Manchester City that played.
His wife is a City fan. Don't worry.
How is it?
Their house is actually in Manchester. I mean, it's a long story. Yes. Now, but the conversation here is that Manchester City, of course, is actually looking at conversation around Pep Guardiola's replacement. And Chelsea's manager, Enzo Maresca, is reportedly on Manchester City's radar as potential successor to Pep Guardiola. If United decides to actually leave at the end of the season, Guardiola has achieved remarkable success during his decade at City, securing 6 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, and of course, club first UEFA Champions League. However, concerns are growing that he might step down after this campaign. And of course, according to multiple reports, the increase, of course, in the sense of Pep Guardiola's final season is becoming, the usual mood as every day, goes by. Pep Guardiola likely to actually leave City at the end of the season. Of course, he's got a lot of protege from Xabi Alonso, we just talked about, Vincent Kompany, Mikel Arteta, who is doing so well at the moment. Of course, all of his managers, all of his proteges are handling top clubs in Europe. And of course, not forgetting, another person. I don't know why you're talking about everything. I didn't want to get my wife offended. And of course, not forgetting the last person, Enzo Maresca I was talking about. Now, looking at all of this, if you are, Manchester City's, owner, and of course the board, Cardrone and co, you want to actually make decision of, who to hire as his successor. Look at all of these guys. Is Enzo Maresca the best person to get the job?
Well, firstly, I would just say credit to Pep Guardiola, and this is an example of what we just discussed, like the last story, setting a big standard for whoever is coming in, because he has won the Champions League. City fans are now obsessed with winning the Premier League, and they want to do it back to back. And also winning the Champions League, they have the likes of Erling Haaland and all of that. So they need a manager that will control, first of all, the ego of these players, because they also have players with big ego, trust me, and also keep them on that, winning standard. So for me, Enzo Maresca, yes, in terms of trophies, he has won the Club World Cup, and also he has stayed with Pep Guardiola, even at Manchester City for a long time. But for me, I think style of play, and with a manager that Pep actually really likes, I think it's going to be Arsenal's Mikel Arteta. Because, yes, you can say recently as Arsenal, they are now playing this kind of anti-football and all of that. But you know when Arsenal are playing free-flowing football, it can be likened to the likes of Manchester City. So for me, Enzo Maresca is a good option. But if I'm to propose for Pep Guardiola, I think it's going to be Mikel Arteta. And trust me, the two of them share a good bond. And maybe you can settle for a Ten Hag as well. Let's see where Manchester City will go back to the championship.
I don't know if you want Maiwa to sleep in his house tonight. But Maiwa, look at all of the coaches that Pep Guardiola has actually groomed, in the course of his career. I mean, this man, Tito Villanova, rest in peace. By now we should have also been, adding him to, the list of players.
A lot.
Pep Guardiola has actually really handled. But looking at Mikel Arteta, also a Barcelona boy or a Catalan rather, like Pep Guardiola, is also doing a very good job for Arsenal at this point. I feel thinks is obviously the very best option if Pep Guardiola leaves City. But for you, City is talking about Enzo Maresca. Enzo Maresca is that assistant that actually led Manchester City to their very first UEFA Champions League. Yeah. Maybe that's why they're actually looking at him. Do you think that Enzo Maresca is the best person, or are you going to also toe the line where Afis is saying, I think it's the Arsenal manager that deserves or is best option for Pep Guardiola's replacement?
Well, and I'm not throwing short at Arteta. In the last 5 years, what has Arteta done?
You are throwing shots.
He delivered. Hold on. He delivered just one. Is he FA Cup now that he won with what's that his name now?
Aubameyang.
Aubameyang. All right. Since that time, he has been delivering second position, and when he has the opportunity to win the league, he has bottled it a couple of times. He's likely to bottle it again right now. So for me, I think until Arteta delivers probably maybe an Intercontinental title, maybe a Europa League, a Champions League, or an EPL, I don't think he has what it takes to replace, a Guardiola.
Better players.
If we are looking at another coach, Enzo Maresca, he has a good start. He has a terrible finishing. He did it with Leicester City. He started so well with them. They barely qualified to the EPL. I'm looking at a decent company because he has built a steady profile with Bayern Munich. The first season was a bit of a struggle, but he has been able to turn things around for himself, and he's doing so well. I'm looking at a decent company or a Xabi Alonso as a proper replacement. And Arteta, he will play scintillating football, but he will not deliver results. So if they want a replacement, I think they should be looking at a decent company or a Xabi Alonso to replace a Guardiola, not an Arteta or Enzo Maresca.
Maiwa, give us a parting shot as we go.
Well, it's another weekend is upon us. I'm hoping, the usual guy, I hope they lose this weekend so I can get to troll him next week. Thank you for having me, KTB.
Of course, Maiwa. Afis?
Yeah, for me, yes, it's been wonderful. And also, I also want to toe the line of Maiwa. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens next week. It will be nice to feast.
Of course, it will be nice to feast. That's what Afis said. And this is exactly where we're drawing the curtain on today's episode of The Locker Room. I'd say don't go nowhere, sit tight, because Chukwumokoro will be coming to the studio to take us through the world of politics. It is Political Lens with Chukwumokoro and Ikechukwu Agwago Tongo
The red carpets, awards, the razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight on Voice of the People Television. Let's feed you with all the juicy stories in the global entertainment space, bringing you the glitz and glamour as they hot. Stay tuned to Spotlight, 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Spotlight on VOP TV. Entertainment like never before. Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us.
In a world where power shifts with every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy, and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not spin. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
In a world where truth is the ultimate